Councillor Dave and Mrs. Carol Gordon, thank you very much for coming and joining with us. This is Dave's first official engagement since he was inducted, welcomed, bumped. He began his office on Thursday. We're also delighted to welcome one Phil Taylor. Don't get too excited, it's not Phil the Power Taylor. This is Phil No Braces Taylor. But, Phil's not only the musical director of the Burton Male Voice Choir, but also is the chairman of the Cornwall Federation of Male Voice Choirs. We're delighted also to have members from Burton, Liscarret, Palint and Tintagel Orpheus with us. As choir members, we are rightly proud of our own choirs, but there's a special thrill when we join with other choirs. We all sang with other choirs recently at the International Festival in October. About 90 of us are singing in Bournemouth, and next year 380 will sing in the Birmingham Symphony Hall. It's exciting to have the 4 other choirs with us to help us celebrate tonight. This evening, Launceston will be conducted by our joint musical directors, John Beer and Jonathan Mann. One of our musical directors has been with the choir 50 years, but we're not telling you which one until later in the evening. We're also delighted that we have our 2 accompanists, Carol Baker and Liz Mann. We shall begin in a moment. I usually ask at this stage of an evening if in fact you've got a sense of humour, but I no need to ask that this evening. The fact that on a glorious evening such as this, you've chosen to come and hear 100 old men singing rather than walking on the coastal footpath tells me that either you've got a sense of humour or, well, perhaps not, we won't mention the other one. There are some good care homes in this area. It's only natural when your first child goes off to university that parents worry about what they're doing. And this is especially the case when the young person in concern hasn't contacted home for several weeks. Sonia was very concerned about Geraldine and pestered Harry so much that he agreed that they would go up and see her on Sunday morning. And so off they went with their sat-nav and her address and pulled up outside of a large house in the middle of Birmingham. It was still only 10 o'clock in the morning, and therefore the whole place was quiet and every curtain was closed. Sonia rang the bell several times, and just as she was about to give up, a rather sleepy voice shouted from inside, "Who is it?" Sonia called back, "I'm sorry to bother you, but does Geraldine Waters live here?" "Yep," said the voice. "Leave her in the porch and we'll drag her in later." Some of us are cricket addicts looking forward to the test matches that are coming up, so I thought this one should be included. A talking horse turned up at Lord's cricket ground and persuaded the coach that he could play cricket. Everybody was a bit dubious, but they decided that they would give him a trial. In the first match, he found himself batting with the team captain. In ran the opposition's fast bowler and hurled the ball at the horse at about 90 miles an hour. The horse hit it in the middle of the bat, and the team captain shouted, "Run! Run!" And the horse just stood there and did nothing. The team captain walked down the wicket and said, "Excuse me, when you hit the ball, why didn't you run?" The horse replied, "Run? Run? If I could run, I'd be at Epsom and Aintree, not at Lord's." Frank had lived in London all his life, and had been in the Metropolitan Police for over 30 years. But being on the beat was taking its toll on his body. So one day he went to his doctor, who advised him to take a holiday, go to Cornwall, where he'd never been before, and bathe his feet in some seawater. So Frank and Mildred booked a flat on the Ood. You can't win them all. Their first ever trip to the seaside. On the first morning, they went to the hardware shop, and they bought 2 metal buckets and headed for the beach. The tide was out, but Frank saw some people working there, so he went up to the lifeguard, gave him £5, and asked if he could have 2 buckets of seawater. So the lifeguard went with them, took the buckets into the sea, filled them up, and gave them back to Frank, who took the buckets back to the flat and soaked his feet all evening. Next day it was raining, and so they looked around the shops, had some lunch, and when the sun came out, Frank collected his buckets and went back to the beach. He saw the same lifeguard, but this time the lifeguard told him to help himself to the water. For the first time in his life, Frank saw that the tide was right in, and so he turned to the lifeguard and he said, "You carry quite a bit of stock then." George bought a new Lexus sports car. He was very proud of it. And so were his family, especially his 2 sons, Gary and Stephen, who were both teenagers. However, George was taken by surprise one evening when at dinner, Stephen suddenly said, "Dad, if you die suddenly, which one of us is going to inherit the car?" George took his time, but he said, "Well, it's Gary's birthday on the 5th of February, and Stephen's is on the 26th of October. So if I pass away on the odd date, Gary will get it. If it's an even date, then Stephen, you can have it." That solution seemed to satisfy the boys, and the matter was not mentioned again. Many months later, they went to the beach because they were on their summer holiday. They decided that they were going to go out fishing. They went out in the boat, and as they were fishing, Dad leant over the side to unhook the line, which was caught up underneath the boat, and he fell in. And immediately Stephen shouted out, "Come back, Dad, it's the wrong day." Ladies and gentlemen, having seen these young men and heard them sing, it won't come as any surprise to you when I say that in order to be able to sing well, you have to be fit. Paul had been persuaded to go to the gym because he was significantly overweight. On his 3rd visit, he was pleasantly surprised to discover that the class that day was being taken by a very attractive young lady. After a grueling session, he said, "I can feel that these sessions are really beginning to help me." The lady instructor just looked him up and down. And feeling very self-conscious, Paul said, "Big men run in my family." And she lifted her eyebrows and she said, "Obviously, not far enough." But I do want to share with you, I've been on a keep fit exercise really for 2 years now. The button's been done up on the blazer. I hope you can see that upstairs. Right. It's been a grueling exercise, but it's been worth it. I can now sing between 2 and 3 bars without taking a breath. So. But I want to pass on the secret of it to you if I can. All right? Now this is, you need to be quite intelligent to understand this one, but we have got people who don't live in Launceston, so we've got a chance. Right, the first thing that you do is take a £5 potato bag, put it in each hand, and hold it out, and see how many days it takes you before you can keep your arms out straight for a minute. When you've done that, you take a 10-pound potato bag, you stretch your arms out, and you see how long it takes you in days to hold it there for a minute. When you've done that, you take a 50-pound potato bag, put one in each hand, put your arms out, and see how long it takes before you can hold them there for a minute. Now that's the stage that I'm at the moment. And next week I've been encouraged to put 1 or 2 potatoes in each bag. 4-year 12 boys were known for spending more time in Tesco's and Costa than in their lessons at Launceston College. One day they were late for a lesson in which they knew they were going to be tested on some coursework that they should have revised, but they hadn't. In fact, they just made it into the college as the rest of the pupils were coming out. However, their teacher was quite experienced and also very understanding. But even he was surprised when the excuse was that Jim's car had broken down, it had a flat tyre, and he had no spare wheel. That's fine, said the teacher. I can understand that. In fact, would you please take a piece of paper and sit in each corner of the room? What I'm going to do is, to be fair on you, I will give you one question, and if you answer that question correctly, then I will give you a grade 7 for the paper that you've missed. So the boys were delighted, took the paper, went and sat in each of the corners of the room, and when they were sitting there, he said, please write your answer to this question. Which tyre on the car was flat? The lovely thing about village life is that as people walk around the village, you know, they chat to each other and pass comments, don't they? Though Joe was 61, he just loved his gardening, and he spent as much time as possible as he could. But Ned lived up the road. And Ned was the one person in the village who thought he knew everything about gardening. And so one day he was out for a walk, and he saw Joe at work in the garden, and he said, what be you up to today then? Can't you see? I'm pruning the roses. They be roses, said Ned. They be chrysanthemums. Know the answer, Joe? Yes, they be, said Ned. I've just been reading all about them. They be chrysanthemums. Okay, said Joe, if you're so sure they be chrysanthemums, and you've been reading all about it, spell chrysanthemum. K-R-I-S? No. C-H-R-I? No. C-R-Y? No. Okay, said Ned, I think they are roses after all. I suppose we all have our favourite make of car. My son used to be the top salesman for Jaguar in the country. That's true. He won the award 3 years running. But he said, Dad, never buy a Jaguar. They're just an expensive bit of tin. Sorry for those of you who got them. But in the staff canteen, they had this printed on the wall, but I don't think Davy gave it to any of his customers. How do you double the value of a Jaguar? Fill it up with petrol. What do you call an open-topped Jaguar? A skip. What information do you always find in the glove compartment of a Jaguar? A bus timetable. What is the difference between a Jaguar and a golf ball? Most people can drive a golf ball more than 250 yards. What's the difference between Jaguar and the flu? you can get rid of the flu. And lastly, why does a Jaguar have a heated rear window? To keep your hands warm when you're pushing. Happy motoring.